Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, SB. So as you saw in the previous clips, we are going to be making a headband. So the materials you're going to need today are, of course, your yarn. And I am using a worsted weight yarn, and you can basically use any yarn that you want. And of course, you're going to need scissors and a tapestry needle, of course, and your crochet hook, which today I am using the crochet hook that is recommended for the yarn on my yarn label, which happens to be an H8 or a 5mm crochet hook. And you may or may not need a stitch marker. It's just up to you. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started with the project. So of course, with all of our crochet projects, we have to start with a slip knot, and I am simply going to use my crochet hook for this. So work a slip knot in whichever method that you prefer. And for this project, we are simply going to chain 12. Yes, chain 12 is all you need, and we're going to have a total of 11 stitches for the entire project. So in the second chain from the hook, we are simply going to single crochet. Okay, and in that next stitch, we are going to double crochet. So this is going to be our pattern for the entire project that we're doing today. So next stitch is going to be single crochet and then double crochet. So single, double, all the way across to the end, and you should end with a single crochet in that last stitch. If you are planning on modifying this pattern, just be sure that you start out with a chain of even number of stitches. So in our example here, in our project here, we chained up 12, and at the end of the day, we are going to wind up with a total of 11 stitches. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind, that you want to end you want to end with a single crochet, start with the single crochet. So once you complete that last stitch, you should have a total of 11 stitches. And our chain 1 at the beginning is never going to count as a stitch. So let's go ahead and move on to row 2. In row 2, we are going to chain 1 and turn. And in the first stitch, which is a single crochet, we are simply going to single crochet. So single crochet into our single crochets, double crochet into the double crochets. Like I said, that is going to be our repeating pattern. And what you're going to do is you're just going to repeat that back and forth until you get your desired length. Now, my rule of thumb whenever making headbands or hats or something of that nature is that you're going to need negative ease. So you want it to be a little bit tighter than what your actual measurement is. So in my example, I measured my head to be 21 inches around. So I want to have a negative ease of -1 inch. So there it is, 21 inches. I want to have my headband be 20 inches whenever it's stretched. So that way it's a little tighter, and I know as I wear it, it's not going to get looser and looser, which tends to happen. So unstretched, I actually measured it at 19 inches, but whenever I stretched it out, it actually stretched out to 21. So just keep that in mind when you're measuring your headband. So go ahead and repeat that single crochet, double crochet, back and forth until you get the correct length. Here we are completed, and I'm going to show you how long this actually is really quick. I didn't keep track of my rows or anything, I just measured. So as you can see here, it is actually 19 inches long. And whenever I stretch it out, you'll see how much stretch it actually has. So that's why I opted to go to 19 rather than 20. But it all depends on your preference, really. So I went for a negative ease of 2 inches here. As you can see, I stretched it out. It stretches out to 20, but it ultimately stretches out to 21 inches. So, test it as you're working. So stop and stretch it out to see how much stretch it actually has. So let's go ahead and move on. We are going to join our edges together. And this is really, really simple. I did not fasten off my work. We are simply going to utilize slip stitches to join our work together. So basically, with the right sides facing, this is this fabric that we created here is actually reversible, so it doesn't really matter at this point. Just make sure everything is adjusted correctly. Everything's facing the right way. Chain one and turn. So with the side that doesn't have the working yarn coming out, it should be facing you. We are going to go into the front of our work through the back loop. So as you can see, that's our front panel. Our back panel, we're going to go through the front loop. Sorry, I think I said that wrong. The front panel, we are going to go through the back loop. The back panel, we are going to go through the front loop. There we go. So as you can see here, back loop, front loop. And if you don't want to do it this way, you don't have to. I just prefer the way it looks whenever you work through the back loop and the front loop. I think it just makes it look a little flatter. But like I said, if you don't want to do it this way, you don't have to. You can simply just single crochet it through both loops on both layers of fabric. Or you can cut your yarn and just sew it. I mean, we're going to be doing some sewing here in a minute anyways, so it's really up to you. It's about preference. So I'm just going to do this all the way across. Okay, so there is the last slip stitch completed. And as you can see, I mean, it still has a seam, but it's a little flatter. And on the opposite side, you can barely see this. So yeah, there it is. At this point, you could just leave it like this and call it a day. You know, weave in your ends, fasten off, all that good jazz. You can chain one here, pull it all the way through. What I'm going to do is just leave it there. And I'm going to cut off a fairly long length of yarn, long enough that I can work with, because we are going to be doing whip stitch and seaming up the back or the front, if you will, whichever one you want it. And we're going to make it like a tube. So yeah, go ahead and cut your yarn if that's what you're going to do. And we're going to continue with our little tube. So right here, as you can see, I have my seam right there. I'm just going to kind of work around that edge and then kind of anchor this part in because I didn't do a chain one or anything. I just kind of pulled it straight through. So there we go. And now I am going to put the seam basically at the side. Now, if you want, you can place the seam in the center like you see here and work on either side. And the only reason why I did this was because I didn't feel like attaching new yarn to the other side and working across, if that makes any sense. So I'm actually going to place my seam at one of the sides, either the right or the left, just depends on you. And we're going to work across, as you can see here. So I'm going towards the right, but I flip it around here. So my seam is going to be at my right hand side. And I'm going to create a little tube. And I'm just going to place my tail here in the center because I'm lazy and I don't like weaving things in. So as you can see, I got my seam. And I'm just going to line that together. And working from right to left, I am going to seam up about 6 inches. It's really your preference of how short or how long you want to make this part. I just chose 6, I don't know, randomly. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to whip stitch this together and yeah, create a little tube. So it could be either for the back side of your neck or for the front of your head. Once again, it's preference. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And after we finish this, I'm going to weave in all my ends and our headband will be complete. All right, so here I am at the end. And as you can see here, I am just leaving a little loop. And I'm just going to pass my needle through from the front to the back. And we're going to anchor this in just to make sure it doesn't come loose or anything. And I'm going to actually do this twice to really ensure this isn't going to come apart. And then I am going to finish this up by weaving in my ends, making sure everything is secure. And yeah, and you're done basically at this point. You are finished, flip it to the right side, whatever side you like the most, and you are complete. So I really, really hope that you enjoyed this project. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple, and I think it looks super cute too. Let me know if you enjoyed it by hitting that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, you know, all that jazz. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but we're going to do it. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Happy crafting. Bye.